So day 31, and we have activity here at the home of Nancy Guthrie, where you can see that vehicle just a short time ago pulled into the driveway. Now, on day 30, when there was a vehicle there, it was family. The individual got out, went into the home. Right now, it is unknown exactly who that is. But on this day 31, more activity inside of the home of Nancy Guthrie. Again, it was just 24 hours ago that Savannah, Annie, and Tommaso came and laid flowers here and that nice message. But there is more activity at the home of Nancy Guthrie on this day 31. So, folks, we do have activity, as you can see. We're going to be starting now. This is pretty significant. We do have some updates that we're going to get to. And I'm going to be starting in just a moment. Right now, we are live. We're going to monitor that vehicle. Savannah was here yesterday with Annie and the brother-in-law, Annie's husband, Tommaso. You could see the three of them were very united. But what I think is really interesting on this day 31 and the search for Nancy Guthrie, we remain here in the Catalina foothills. Now, right now, we are live on Facebook and also YouTube, and then we're going to be joined on the radio very shortly, coming up at the top of the hour. But what is certainly getting a lot of attention, and just bear with me, is this is one of those situations. We're on the ground. Those who've been watching the coverage, I get, people are contacting me with information, by the way, with good information while we're here. And so I'm trying to filter it all out. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure we're not live on X at the moment, but we're just doing Facebook and YouTube. If for whatever reason it's glitchy, that's the way it is here in the Catalina foothills outside of the home. I even notice at different spots, for instance, if there's certain areas, if you just walk 10 feet in one direction and it dips down, that it can affect the Wi-Fi. So we try to stay in areas where we're going to have a little more success. But the big news of the day, and again, I'm going to give it to you in just a couple moments. Well, I'll start to hint at it a little bit, but the Pima County Sheriff did an interview with NBC. So this is really significant because he would not, I want you to recognize, regardless what people think of the Sheriff Nanos, and I'll show his photo in a moment, but you have to realize at this point, he would not be saying things to NBC, Savannah's network, if they didn't feel pretty good about it. I have a hard time believing that he would be, putting things out there. And so the fact that he did an interview with NBC, Savannah's network, I find that really interesting. And more importantly, it's what he told NBC. And what he told NBC is that feels like they're getting closer. The investigation is closer to finding suspect. New video of a car 2.5 miles away has been identified, and they're looking at hundreds of thousands of other vehicles. So hold on. I want to back up just for a moment. New video of the car has not been identified. Not been identified. So that's important. Think of they were able to identify all these different vehicles, and then there's one vehicle that stands out, and they're unable to identify that vehicle. That's number one. Number two, this is also what the sheriff told NBC. The backpack may not have been purchased at Walmart. it could have been purchased from a secondhand store. So think about that. You have a secondhand store, and they say, a short time ago, whatever, a couple weeks ago, whatever, or late January sometime, I sold a backpack like that to someone that came in, and they kind of look like um, the whole end of the driveway. Okay, so now we got two, or no, we have three. So now we have three vehicles at the home. You're watching that live. So this is three vehicles now, full house, pulling up into the driveway at the home of Nancy Guthrie. Wow, I didn't realize it goes that deep into the back. See where that white car went? So that's interesting. So we started with one vehicle. Now we have three vehicles that are there, but let's see who gets out of the three vehicles. And they're once again going into the house. Now, that would be, oh, no, they're outside the house. Going into the front doorway. This is interesting. So we had the first white vehicle that arrived, and now the other two started to walk around to the front, and then they're out of sight, or they went inside the garage. Fox Digital LA is here. News, not digital. Oh, Fox News, not digital. Okay. Same family, same pew. Hmm. Quite a bit of activity here on day 31. First time I've seen a vehicle park where that white vehicle is to the driveway kind of goes off. I haven't seen a vehicle park there like that. Some more activity at the house. So you had the family. Let me just check. Coming up to the top of the hour, you have the family was here yesterday, and now these three vehicles arrive here, and they started to go around. I also didn't realize you had kind of have a little bit of a ledge. Looks like a very narrow walkway along from the driveway to get to the front door. I haven't noticed that before, but they were definitely walking on it. So again, this is day 31, quite a bit of activity. It's just interesting, everybody that is tuning in. And again, we're live on Facebook, YouTube. We're going to be live on the radio coming up in just 6 minutes. But the interview with the sheriff was very, very interesting. The things he told NBC, Sheriff Nanos. He has not been doing any interviews. For him to come out, I'm not going to say felt confident, but you got to think for him to mention that they felt, very positive, the sheriff, about the DNA, and also that they believe they had a suspect possibly, and about the backpack. What I find significant about that is, again, he's talking to Savannah's network. So I don't think he'd be saying those things if they didn't feel pretty good about it. Certainly been a fair amount of criticism his way. So now, who are they and why are they here? We don't know. I want to remind people, so the home was handed back over to the family. So they are certainly, thank you, Pete, free to. Hold on one moment as I'm getting some information. What's that? I don't know, but I've never seen. What's that? I've never seen a car. See the white one to the right? I've never seen anybody park like that. Yeah. No, it was all men. Yeah, it was all men. Yeah. You know what else I noticed? It's Chris, right? Yeah. I never noticed. So there's a little like ledge walkway from the driveway to the house. But this was odd. Like they walked in like maybe they thought they were going to be let in the front. Yeah. And they came back around. I don't hear them out there, so maybe they went in the garage. Yeah. But it's so the sheriff tells NBC they feel good about the DNA, and they might could lead to a suspect. And then suddenly the three of them show up today. Yeah. Huh. Was it sheriff? I don't think so. We don't know who that is. The security guard. I mean, the guy who did the install. Okay. But why? But I don't recognize his car. Yeah. And I don't know why there'd be three of them. Maybe. Could be. The sheriff with the NBC interview, though, that's pretty interesting. He's not going to say things this morning. Yeah. They're close. No, he's not. Is he going to say that to her network if it's another dead end? I don't think so. His ass is on the line. Hey, very good. Well, the timing is not good. I'm actually going to be live in 2 minutes. So. Folks, here's JLR investigates. Folks, here he is, the man that he's everywhere, this guy. So I did want to ask you, what do you make of that interview the sheriff did with NBC?
He said they're getting closer.
Yep.
Closer.
Yep. Yes.
He said also it takes time.
And a suspect in the vehicle they can't identify.
You got the shade. Rubber holder. I just didn't get an umbrella. I should have brought one.
Yeah. You got to bring an umbrella holder. You have everything else, though. All right, folks, we're going to begin again. So I'm simulcast on the radio. All right, folks, we're going to begin in just 2 minutes. But again, this is a lot of activity. Now, again, anytime there's activity at the house, it gets some media attention. I'm actually going to go back to the shade. Folks, if they come out again, we'll pop out. So 857 Tucson, this guy's always on the case. Folks, give his page a follow. YouTube or Facebook? Both Facebook and YouTube. It's Chris from News Nation undressing. All right, we're 1 minute out. and we're going to begin. All right, it is day 31, and what you're looking at right now, we are once again we are live on AM 1380 99.9 FM. Now we're also live for this portion on Facebook and YouTube, and we remain on the ground in the search for Nancy Guthrie. Now, yesterday at this time, make no mistake about it, they still don't let us, for those that are watching on Facebook or YouTube, they don't let us park on the street. And that's for whatever reason, that's fine. But yesterday was significant with Savannah coming out. But I'm going to be posting an update on our website, dpshow.com, brought to you by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. It's not lost on me that there's still a tremendous amount of snow on the ground in the Northeast in New England. I saw, the mayor of Cranston saying they got close to 4 feet of snow, my hometown. But it's brutal. But the good news is, anyone that's watching the forecast, I'm seeing that the temperatures are going to start to climb, and then rain is coming in, and it hopefully will be a good 7 days of melting. But stop into the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick, as we like to say, lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge. They also have the coffee at the Coesit Inn. So we remain on the ground. And admittedly, a number of media have left. There's still some independents here, like 857 Tucson, who's based out of here, Damon, and also JLR Investigates, and Fox and News Nation, the local stations. I think those are the mainstays. But what certainly has gotten my attention for those that are following the Nancy Guthrie case. Now, I know some people, number one, if people say they're no longer following the case, I totally get that because, it is very dramatic with what's going on in Iran. So I understand that. But it's still an unsolved, case right now. It's not a cold case, but it's still the biggest mystery in the world right now. I think the two biggest mysteries are what happened to Tucker Carlson, and also, um, but the seriously, the situation of what happened with Nancy Guthrie. So let's back up to that, because what I think is it stands out to me, and that is that the Sheriff Christanos, who's come under a tremendous amount of fire, without question, but he did an interview with NBC, and that's significant for several reasons. Number one, he's really not doing a lot of interviews. That's number one. Number two, obviously, NBC is Savannah Guthrie's network. She remains off the air. She was right here. For those of you that are watching, when you see the video of her laying the flowers, there you are. You're looking at the mailbox right now. That's exactly where they were. But I'm referring to on the Today Show, where they said in an interview with NBC News, the Pima County Sheriff Chris Danos shared an update on the car seen nearby in surveillance video and a backpack worn by the suspect. So there's several things about this that, if you follow the case, for those of us that are still very vested, as I am, as many of you are, but what really stands out to me, Sheriff Nanos discussing the ring video we uncovered last week showing an unidentified vehicle on a back road egress from Nancy Guthrie's home around the time she went missing, February 1st. But on top of that, the fact that they are, number one, I don't think the fact that he said investigators are definitely closer to finding the suspect. Here's what you have to ask yourself for those that have followed the case. Would he say that to NBC? Now, he's not communicating with any other media. Would he say that to Savannah's network? This is someone who's been very tight-lipped. We haven't seen him do an interview, sit down like this in quite some time. For him to say they're closer to finding a suspect, I think that's very notable. Number two, new video of a car has not been identified, and they are looking at a lot of thousands of other vehicles. The fact that they're unable to identify who that car belongs to, I also find that very notable. The backpack may not have been purchased at Walmart, could have been purchased secondhand. What does that tell us? It tells us that it seems as though some kind of a secondhand store may have stepped forward and said, back in December, January, I sold a backpack just like that to someone that kind of resembles that person. And I think that is also really, really notable in this. And then it comes to the aspect of the DNA. And what some people may not recognize is that the DNA is really the key to the whole case. The DNA was, in fact, the key with some other crimes, most notably the Brian Kohlberger case. So the fact that he sits down, and not just with NBC, but with the Today Show, and says they're definitely getting closer, he could just remain completely silent if he wanted to. But the sheriff does believe they're getting closer and making more progress. Now, on top of that, I just want to just skip down. And I know there's, already been so much that we have in the flowers, and that's what you're looking at. But let me get to dedicated team from the homicide unit. I actually believe that it's probably the local homicide squad. I know some people may not get this, but I actually think they're going to be the ones to solve this. Now, he says they're operating under the belief that Nancy Guthrie is still alive. I don't even think her family thinks that at the moment. But be that as it may, they asked about ring camera video obtained by Fox News Digital showing a car driving past the home about 2.5 miles. NBC News been up and able to look. What I can tell you is we're aware, we're looking into it like any other piece of evidence. They have not been able to identify the car in the footage. That's interesting. We're looking at the vehicles, but there's a lot of other vehicles. The sheriff said they have not been able to identify the clothes worn by a man seen on the doorbell camera video. Ski mask, backpack, holster on the night she disappeared. Backpack the man is wearing it exclusively sold by Walmart, but the sheriff now says it may not have been bought at one. We've learned it wasn't maybe purchased on Walmart. Backpack is new, exclusive to Walmart, but who's to say someone didn't buy it on eBay or a secondhand store? And there's also a lot of information they haven't shared with the public. So the sheriff says there's so much everybody wants to know. Now, no leads from the DNA. Authorities are still having challenges trying to process the mixed DNA found at the property. The mixture could be from several people. Experts have said it can make it difficult to extract a DNA profile for one individual. Authorities have put some DNA into the National Data Bank, received no hits, but the sheriff believes the DNA could be a viable lead. It's going to take more time to extract an identification. Now, I am hearing from people that could be a little further along than they are alleging right now. All right, so the individuals at the house, they're now outside of the house. And we're going to go and just show you because they're outside and they're right now talking right there in the driveway. So this is in the driveway of her home. For those that are tuned in right now, Facebook and also on YouTube and obviously on the radio. But you're watching, so you have these 3 individuals right here that are at the home. They showed up a short time ago. We are unclear of exactly who they are or why they're here. But this is right at the property of Nancy Guthrie. So we're going to follow them. It certainly look like they're going towards the front door. And it's interesting, again, if they are, again, going into where that Nest camera is. Right there. Again, they're right there. Now they're going in the door. That's the first time that I believe we've seen anyone enter through that front door of Nancy Guthrie. So it opens out to the left for those that caught that. And what I find interesting about that is, again, they're going through the front door, and not sure the why. So they start out, again, it's a puzzle. We don't know why, but they did. That's the first time I've seen anyone enter through the front door. And the front door opens left. And then you also, why that's very significant. Now, many times I also want to just point out for those that are watching, many times when we are here and we're live or filming, sometimes we don't necessarily find out right away who these individuals are. But many times we find out later, oh, okay, that's who that was. And then at least we have the footage of it. But on this day 31, that's the first time that I have seen anyone go in and out of that front door. I mean, it's possible that they have been, but I'm just telling you, as someone that's been on the ground here, that's the first time that I have seen anybody use it. So that's really significant, very significant. That's interesting. Now we do know that they, and again, folks, I do want to stay on track here a little bit, but we are now. There's more activity. I'm going to walk down, and again, it can get a little sketchy sometimes, but they seem to be pretty active around the property. Oh, there they are. They're again at the front door. For those that are watching, you're going to be able to see it in just a moment. So this is the most activity we've seen right up here at Nancy's front door in quite some time. And exactly what they're doing is unclear, but you can, for those that are watching, and again, obviously we're live on the radio, but we're also live on Facebook and YouTube. And let me just also, I want to try something here. Let me do this. And okay, let me try this. Because I may be switching apps. The current, right there, the current app that we're using does not allow you to zoom in. So they're definitely working on something right there, or they're investigating something. Keep in mind, these could be investigator detectives. Right there. And again, you're listening to the radio. It's not ideal, but if you're watching on our Facebook page or on our YouTube page, you can see the individuals. Now they're going back inside. Again, what I find interesting is this is day 30, day 31. And this is the most activity that we've had here at the house. So let's go through several things. These could be private investigators. These could be investigators that want to come back and do some more testing and check something. For those of you that are watching right now, and again, we are live on our Facebook page, we're live on YouTube. That's the front entrance that you're looking at. And as I mentioned also, I am exploring actually another app that would allow us to stream this way on both Facebook and on YouTube. I think it's Restream, and they do allow you to zoom in a little bit. Where StreamYard, the one that I'm using, only allows this one shot that we're looking at. But keep in mind that that's where they say there's the blood splatter, and then they believe the vehicle was brought up, and then that Nancy Guthrie was put into that vehicle. So this is again, you wonder, did they think that maybe they got something and they want to double check it or do another test on it as far as like a DNA, is there something else? There could also be, from what I understand, there's an awful lot of, they're back in the driveway. Okay, there's a lot of people that are reaching out and they're using some of the latest technology. Okay, so there we are right there. Excuse me. And now it looks like they're leaving right now, but he's definitely putting something. At least one of them's leaving. The other two are definitely working on something. Again, it's unknown exactly what you're looking at right now. For those that are watching, this is these three showed up just about 25 minutes ago. Unknown who that is. And now, okay, so they're going back into the house for those that are tuning on this. So I'm not sure. Again, I want to just repeat that what we also just captured and saw was they were put some things in the blue car in the trunk. Unsure, but putting some things in there. So definitely removing some things are still very active in and out. Whoever that was, it could be possible that they got what they needed and then they're going to go back to the lab. But everyone else, the other two, excuse me, remain on scene. So it's again, for those that are just tuning in, and I'm aware, let me just say this again. I am aware that military actions in Iran, I am aware of that. And I am aware that a lot of people are dealing with quite a bit of snow on the ground. But right here, I want to be very clear about something. And this is a very active investigation. Folks, I also want to remind you, remember all your propane needs, contact Propane Plus. You can depend on Propane Plus, always online at propaneplus.com, available 24/7, serving Rhode Island, Massachusetts. It's Propane Plus. I want to say a quick hello to everybody. And on this, where am I? There I am, day 31. So for those, and I'll admit, I don't fully understand. For those of you that follow a lot of the work we do, and I also want to thank all of our, we call them subscribers. Like if you like this type of on the ground reporting that we do, if you're watching on Facebook, it says a subscriber, but it really should say you're a supporter because that's what it is. And it's very inexpensive, but I can share with you, it's not easy doing this type of coverage. It's not. It's 7 days a week. You got to be ready to go at all times. And it is challenging. I don't mind the walk. They make us, park. I'm embracing the walk. I'm up to 15,000 steps a day. Normally during the course of the year, I normally do over 20,000 steps a day. So we're going to work back into that. But I'm telling you, because like some people don't fully understand the nature of the story, but a crime was committed, and it's very possible, seemingly a homicide was committed. And so I'm here on the ground because I do believe that they are going to arrest someone for this. I think this case will be solved. So what I'm telling you is I fully get that some of the initial people and all the coverage, believe me, for those of you that are watching on Facebook and YouTube, remember on Facebook, you can share that you're watching, make sure you follow the page. On YouTube, make sure you subscribe, right? That's free, so you can watch. People on Facebook can send stars. On YouTube, they can call them super chats. Um, but something this you know this has been a difficult investigation, but I believe they will have someone in custody. I think there's no such thing as a perfect crime. I'm leaning towards, as I've talked about, the burglary gone wrong. And the FBI, they seem pretty adamant that that's what they believed happened. But hear me out. I believe that interview with the sheriff at NBC, he didn't have to do it, number one. Number two, he didn't have to say, some of the areas they're getting. They do have more information that they're letting on. But I'm telling you right now, I don't think it's an accident that he did the interview with NBC. Here's what I'm saying. I don't think you do that interview unless they feel that they are in fact getting closer on all you need is, do I think, like, a lot of people believe that it sure seems that there were more than one individual involved. And I'm kind of in that camp. So the person with the mask and then someone that we haven't seen. But all you need is the one. All they need is the suspect. And then I do believe that things could actually happen fairly quickly because of, what's been missing here isn't a person of interest, or what's also been missing from this equation is the element of a vehicle of interest. So it didn't happen right away. I have leaned more into, and I do believe, and I was mentioning this yesterday, but I am more in the camp now that that it's very possible that someone was already inside when she got home that night. I think that. I think that makes the most sense because I've never been able to figure out how would they get in without her hearing them. And more importantly, would you risk going in knowing that the homeowner could just call 911? And as I mentioned, dispatchers get those types of calls all the time of, calling 911 and they say there's an intruder in my home. That happens. So I am more akin to that they got into the house. When she arrived home, she perhaps didn't know that someone was in the house and maybe they were hiding, and then either they were trying to leave the house or either she heard them or found them or something of that nature. That's what I think is we are having a problem with again, this app. um just bear with me, folks. um the app that we use suddenly has decided to have a problem as we're trying to bring a guest on, and I'm going to do everything I can to try to correct it, but I'm not sure exactly what the problem is. I need to contact um, them to fix it because I don't know. Let me just, I'm communicating with Justin Katz, who we were going to talk to, but this is, I'm not exactly sure what the problem is. But that's a problem for later. We've never, this is one of the things that happen, folks, where I'll tell you, these apps can be very, very challenging, where you have no problem, and then all of a sudden, I don't know where you have a problem. But I come back to that the fact that he did that interview with NBC, I think that's really significant. And I believe that that's maybe that could become his, Okay, I'm also just checking some people posting. A neighbor near Nancy Guthrie's home said today the FBI came to his door asking for ring camera footage and was searching along the side of the road. Sheriff Cristiano says investigators still trying to identify vehicles seen outside a 2-mile radius, which conflicts with the information TMZ reported. TMZ had reported that there was no match. So now all of a sudden, the sheriff is conflicting with TMZ, saying not that it's no match, just they have been unable to identify. I think the FBI back now. I'll be looking for them later, but now we hear helicopters in the air. So this is interesting. For those that are tuned in right now, let's see if I can capture them. Okay, so now we have helicopter activity here in the area. Now, again, we are live on YouTube and we're live on Facebook. So a lot of activity at the home. Apparently, I will try to find the FBI in just a little while, but the FBI, them back in the neighborhood, I think that's really interesting. I also want to remind people the FBI, they have gone back to their they're based out of Phoenix, and they've pulled back a little bit, but they're really good at video and being able to compile video and so forth. So I think that is now there's another vehicle approaching. Could be just a neighbor or it could be going to the home. We don't know. But FBI increased presence. I think that's a really interesting development because the sheriff saying we're getting closer. I come back to, and okay, let me just also see. NBC has posted something. Let's see. Okay, they are returning the vehicle. They are returning the vehicle to Annie and Tommaso. So there's been talk of that, but they're in the process of returning it. NBC News, more than a month into the search, Savannah Guthrie's sister visited the growing tribute outside this mother's home and leave their own. Okay, well, we were here yesterday when that happened. So for those that are some people are somewhat casual in following the case. We obviously have been a little more intense, so to speak, with our coverage of it. I want to use this as an opportunity, but activity at the house and FBI back talking to neighbors. That's pretty interesting development to me. So that could be they want to just double check, or they maybe feel that they have maybe there's someone. Remember, I also want to just remind people, maybe people know of this, maybe you don't, but this is, it's a exclusive area. It's a lot of people of means. And so it's very possible that there have been people who've been away or traveling, and now they're just coming to this area. And so it could be that there was just someone that was not home when they initially tried to, get the information that they were looking for. But folks, I want to remind you about Capital Fence. Always important, protect your home and business. Capital Fence. Call owner Mike Rizzo today at Capital Fence. Now online at capitalfenceri.com, but call Riz 401 618 4407. Capital Fence. They're based in Cranston. They do fences and gates, most trusted for privacy and security, serving Rhode Island and Massachusetts. Now, they also do in repair and maintenance, highest quality, but why not get a free estimate? I find a lot of people are starting to go back to basics, like why not have a fence around your property? to set up a barrier or deterrent for people that you don't want to enter, whether it's for your home or your business. Capital Fence, 401 618 4407. Look for them online at capitalfenceri.com. They're licensed and insured, free estimate. I hear, if you know owner Mike Rizzo, tell him he's doing a great job. I get such good feedback from so many of you that called them, sometimes for just repair and maintenance, but highest quality. It'll last for years. And depending on, maybe it's a chain link fence, maybe it's a picket fence, whatever. They have everything. Highest quality, installation, durable. A lot more people are going for the automated gates. Especially, I notice a lot of people around here. Why not have that gate at your driveway as the extra precaution? Capital Fence, 401 618 4407, serving Rhode Island and Massachusetts. And folks, remember, Rhode Island, Massachusetts are still sanctuary states. I am right now 90 minutes from the border. I've been telling people I see more illegals in the city of Providence than I do here in Tucson and the Catalina foothills because Arizona is not a sanctuary state. Capital Fence, 401 618 4407. Let me do another one. Kids Club on the Pike. Remember, whether it's daycare or preschool or before and after school care, Kids Club on the Pike. Call Kristen. You're looking for options. 401 443 5336. Now, Kids Club on the Pike is located right off of 295 on the Cranston Johnson line, right off of Plainfield Pike, but they have other locations. They're also in Warwick. Kids Club on the Pike, 401 443 5336. Again, whether it's for Warwick or right there off 295 on Plainfield Pike, for daycare or before and after school care or preschool, Kids Club on the Pike, 401 443 5336. So to recap, there's quite a bit of activity on this day 31 and the search for Nancy Guthrie. There's certainly been a lot of activity. For those that are watching on Facebook or YouTube, you're looking live. Our live shot right outside of the home where there's been activity. I know I always have to caution people that this isn't Netflix. It's not a movie. It's not a TV show. A TV show, you put on at 10 o'clock and they're going to have it solved before 11. That's not what this is. To me, this seems as though, oh, that is a bird. That to me, I lean in that this was a robbery gone wrong and the people involved seemingly got lucky. That's what I that's what I think happened here. People talk about Mexico. There's no evidence anybody went to Mexico. People talk about, well, there's a private plane that took off. There's no evidence and no motive of the motive right now, to me, that makes the most sense is the robbery gone wrong. I've been stuck on who in their right mind would go and enter a home with the homeowner inside sleeping. And if they did get in, well, then why wouldn't the homeowner call 911? But you don't take that chance. But I think it's a much different equation if when she was out of the house for 4 hours from 5:30 to 9:30, I know the police said they cleared the Uber driver, but I find that angle somewhat interesting as well. I got to imagine they got the phones of the Uber driver. They found out, made sure that they didn't contact anyone. I believe she also even knew the Uber driver, so she had taken it in the past. But somehow somebody staked out the house. I think that makes the most sense. Went inside, probably not knowing what was inside. And she came home. They were inside. At least one of them was. Maybe the driver was still outside. And then something happened that resulted in them leaving with her. And then obviously, as we've talked about, the blood splatter of poor Nancy. Now that still makes the most sense to me. And, people have stated that this individual that's really not the person arriving. That is the individual being let into the house that I just had showed you the front door. To me, that makes more sense than this person walking up saying, I think I'll go in. I know people have said some people said they thought that she had opened the door. I don't, who opens the door at 1:30 in the morning? Who, are you kidding me? I mean, wouldn't you, if someone's knocking on my door, and I think a lot of you feel this way at 1:30 in the morning, you're calling, whether it's ringing the bell or knocking on the door, you're just calling 911. Let the police deal with them outside in your driveway. Again, this is what the reporters found. This is what police found right outside. That's on her doorstep. So you see that, and then the flowers that that person grabbed, and then immediately ends, which they believe she was then put into a vehicle. So that to me, right now, on this day 31, to me, that still makes the most sense. Meaning because, and again, why would someone? What we're still admittedly missing here is motive. Specifically, what would be the motive to remove her from the home? And that we don't know. So, okay, I thought that was someone actually going to pull, for those that are watching, into the driveway, but it's not. There's quite a bit of people out here, but I think it's because there's some activity at the home. But now, what they did once they left here with her, that is still unknown. But we did not hear that this was a robbery. But the police haven't spoken a lot about that. They have talked about her being abducted. To me now, this seems as though the kidnapping was false. As far as the ransom notes, the TMZ got someone else, that seems as though that was not legit. That was some scammer set up thinking they could exploit and take advantage of the situation. But that does not seem to be, at this point, and this has already been talked about, by the way, but the high risk nature of kidnapping an 84-year-old woman that needs medication, the high risk nature of that, I don't think that would be the kidnapping. And as I've stated, and I got this from an retired FBI, but they were saying that if this was a true kidnapping, when the family entered the home, most likely would have seen a note. We have her. Do not call the police. Do not tell the media. You have 24 hours to get us the money, blah, blah, blah. That certainly did not happen. So I think a lot of, you don't hear anyone talking about it. And the fact that Savannah came by right here, for those that are watching on Facebook and YouTube, right here yesterday and left and laid the flowers down, I think that showed that they are accepting that their mom has passed, whatever happened with that. And now the whole thing is it possible that whoever abducted her, did they in fact put her remain somewhere, or did they? And I've talked about it. Is this another Brian Walsh, Anna Walsh situation? Folks, I want to remind you, for those that, and I'm not oblivious to the fact, there's going to be a lot of snow, there's going to be a lot of melting, there's going to be a lot of flooding. Remember, serve Pro or Providence. If you get water in your home, maybe you have water leaking in. Maybe once the rain and the snow, the snow starts to melt with all the rain and the higher temperatures, you may get water in your home. And water means mold. Call Serve Pro or Providence, 401 941 5500. They're fast, they're thorough. When disaster strikes, remember, if you have a fire, a commercial fire, well, that does a lot of things. Number one, it gives you fire damage. Number two, it gives smoke damage. In order to put out the fire, they use a tremendous amount of water, and that, can lead to mold. Serve Pro of Providence. We saw them at work in East Providence when you had that senior center, and they had water leaking into the roof, and then that was developing mold. And who did they call? They called Serve Pro of Providence, 401 941 5500. I also want to remind you about our friend Marie at It's My Health, 1099 Menden Road in Cumberland. If you're listening right now, and you're on Mendon Road, diagonally across from Davenport Restaurant, pop in and see the Queen. She has delicious teas and herbs and spices. It's all about health. And she also has some great local products, honey, maple syrup, vitamins for children, but natural things that you can take. Maybe you're aching from a lot of shoveling. It's My Health, 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland. Let me do one more. Watson Materials. I have a feeling when all the snow melts and everyone's able to go outside, I am hearing from a lot of people they plan on spending a lot of time outside. And Watson Materials has the complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island, the most complete. Contact them. Call Sean, request a quote, 401 885 0600, 401 885 0600 for Watson Materials. Now, I want to recap, and that is, what's that?
Tomasi's still in there?
The one person?
Tomasi.
Oh, I didn't see. Was that him that went in?
No, some guy came over.
Oh.
He was here. Did he saw?
I did not see him. Oh, wow. I did not see him.
Oh, I recognize him right away.
Oh, I did not recognize him. And after seeing him yesterday, I think I would have. So, all right. I think that's a false alarm on that was Tommaso here, the son-in-law. So, but we don't know that. I mean, I'll go back and check the footage, but I don't believe that that was Tommaso. For those that are tuned in, again, we continue our on-the-ground coverage. I will tell you, there seems to be a lot of activity here still in the Tucson area. I also want to remind people, I mean, this is still obviously a very unsolved, high-profile case. I also just want to remind people this is not a missing persons case. This is an abduction case. This is an 84-year-old woman was taken against her will and removed from this home. I do have footage of the individuals that were here, and I did not identify Tommaso, but I have time to go back and look at that. So just in the past 24 hours, you have Savannah was here and laying flowers with her sister and Tommaso. And then you also had a lot of activity at the house. You also have the FBI in the area. I'm going to try to find them, still going and searching for video. I think they want to see if they, I believe that they want to confirm some of the things that they have found. And more importantly, I think the fact that the sheriff on the case did an interview with NBC News and said that they feel they're getting closer. They do have a DNA sample. And I think the fact they're withholding a lot of information. So I want to just see two things that are going on at the same time. Multiple vehicles arrived in the driveway, people in the home. Other people show up, walking around, apparently with a metal detector. So again, I don't know what to make of that. I'm more inclined to definitely it was a local. It was definitely some local people. I am now under the belief that it could be more than one, but as many as two or three. And if anything, to remove her from the home, as many other people have stated, that's not easy to do. I also just want to check the NBC interview. I still think that is. I think he knows something, and they could be onto something. And you know what else I want to just mention to everyone? I love Savannah. Please don't stop praying and hoping with us. I want to just also remind. There's still some people that are asking questions that have been answered at least 50 times. And they can we try to do, or I try to do, I should say, I try to do coverage for people like you've been following the case. I call it like the equivalent of being like an NFL insider. You still have people that somehow think it's connected, right, to Jeffrey Epstein or something like that. But what you also need to know is it's very possible right now. I know we have a lot of new people. And again, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on the radio right now. If you're on Facebook, you can share that you were watching. Make sure you follow the page. If you like this type of on the ground coverage, you can certainly become, we call it a subscriber. It's really being a supporter. And then same thing with YouTube. But I want to, right now, let's just say there are individuals in I'll just in Boston that the Boston police are going to go after. They don't just arrive that morning. Let's say they're going to execute a search warrant. And I've learned this by work with police. They have eyes on the subject many times, at least 48 hours ahead of time, if not more, sometimes, maybe even longer than that. So, what people need to understand is it's very possible that right now they have eyes on at least one person, if not two people. And they're not going to, they're not just going to show up that morning. For instance, I want to provide an example. When they did that SWAT raid, I've learned they were sitting on, they were on those guys for a while. I think some people were saying, don't show, that the police are there. You're going to tip off. They had been sitting on them for 3 days before. They don't just, I think some people, I know people don't realize, they don't just like show up. They're watching them. They're watching to see the movements in and out of the house, how they're behaving, what vehicles they're using, who's in the house. They're building intelligence. They don't just, literally, if they're going to do, just as an example, if police are going to do a 6 o'clock where they show up and they have a warrant on someone. Well, they don't, their first arrival at the house is not 6 o'clock that morning. They're there at least one day before, if not 2 days before. And they're monitoring and they are, going, through everything. So they don't just, show up at that time or in any manner like that. So I think people have a false sense of how police operate. And just like that, if you're going to go into a house at 6 o'clock in the morning, the first time you arrive at that house, it's not 6 o'clock. They're there at least the day before, sometimes 2 days before. They want to have a good sense of who's going in and out of the house. And they don't want any types of surprises. And most of the time they don't want to actually get someone. It's very dangerous to go into a house. You don't know what they have when, someone has under a couch, what they have on a wall, where someone might be. So the reason I say that is as we speak, they could be on someone right now. And what I mean by that is they could be um, right now, they could be watching someone to see exactly, where they're going. So now again, for those that are tuned in, we remain inside of the house. We had some activity earlier, and there is still some vehicle here. Someone started to say they believed it was the son-in-law. I did not recognize. I'll have to go back and look at the video. I did not recognize him in that way, meaning I don't think that it was I did not I don't think it was him. I don't think it was him. So folks, and I also want to remind you that if you are having a plumbing problem, and it can happen, contact J&B Plumbing today. They're fantastic. So many times you never know when you're going to need a plumber. contact J&B Plumbing today for all your plumbing needs. And some people could still have problems with pipes. Contact J&B Plumbing today, and they will straighten out all of your plumbing problems. It's J&B Plumbing. So I want to just check out and make sure that we're not missing anything. I am aware of what's happening overseas. I am aware of that. And and that's going to go on for quite some time. I know there are some people that are, here comes some people that are actually bringing flowers. I know there are some people that are searching the area. What a lot of people may not realize is that the police were out. We're going to walk and just give them a little privacy. Excuse me, the police were out here the first day that this happened. The police, both sides of the driveway, both sides of the street, excuse me, were covered with, as someone described for me, like 100 police vehicles. And they had canines out, and they were searching this entire area. And so I'm not exactly sure. I believe there's somebody out with a metal detector, and people, can search as much as they want. But I can tell you that the police were out here. I know that there wasn't a lot of media out here at the time, but the police were certainly out here the first 2 days, and they had canines and dogs, and were looking for anything of that kind. So there is some activity whenever there's something a little bit different and new. We get some activity out here. I think it's nice that some people are still leaving flowers and so forth. And right now, I get the sense that they're, now they've had some time to go through things, and now they've had some time, meaning the investigators and the police. You're seeing someone with a metal detector, and who knows? It's possible. It could have been someone hiding in the brush, waiting to pounce and come out and suddenly take action in that way. So who knows? I've seen where sometimes they find where someone was hanging out because they find some cigarette butts or something like that. But for just, I've seen people post like, why don't they bring canines out and things of that nature? But it's my understanding, people, police, media that were here, this entire area for the first full 24 hours, they were combing through everywhere around here, and they were looking in yards and looking all over. And again, the canines were out. The canines did not detect anything. So, but you never know, because they do need to get lucky in the case. They need somehow to get the lead that they need that could break this thing wide open. So if you are listening to the radio, stay tuned for the news at the top of the hour. And everyone else, we will be posting updates. Again, it's day 31. The sheriff feels they're getting closer, but the search goes on. When will there be an arrest with the case of Nancy Guthrie?